Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to focus this video on the career lessons you only really learn when you're going through hard times. There's a lot of career gurus and experts out there, and a lot of the advice, frankly, it's like financial advice from someone who is just assuming you're already a millionaire. It's like perfect world. Let's all just leisurely traipse down this golden path of ever increasing success as though we've never had a bad day or a rainy day in our lives. And that's just not the truth, right? I mean, we know that's not the truth. And if you've ever gone through hard periods, you know how difficult it is to try to make upward progress, right? You know how hard it is to not just walk, but to pull a boulder uphill just to get to that next level. And so, me and my family, we've been dealing with some hard stuff recently. A lot of it more personal than professional. Over the course of a little over 2 months, we lost our dog, we lost our cat. Had to explain that to our young kids, and we've had, older members of our family who are taking ill, and all of this stuff is going on, right? And maybe for you, they are more career related, right? Maybe you have a job that's winding down that you've got to get out of. Maybe you've got a toxic boss. Maybe you've got a career that's really stalled out and you've basically been doing the same thing over and over again, right? Or maybe you've got any number of those difficulties. And so I want to talk about what are the lessons that you should be on the lookout for here, and really what is the hidden value of these hard times? Because there really is some hidden value there. Number one is, I think when you're going through super hard times, nothing is going to make you crystallize the mission behind what you do. A big problem that I see in terms of the people that I work with is they'll come to me after having spent years locked in what's called golden handcuffs. You'll see it in finance. You'll see it in a lot of other industries, honestly. Finance gets a really bad rap as being like the the devil, but I've seen this play out across many, many industries. So it's not only a finance thing. It's a life and career thing. So here's what happens. Someone hires you, a company hires you. They don't have a growth plan for you. They don't really care, honestly, about having you grow and contribute in a higher way, right? So what they'll do is they'll just throw money at you. And they will give you so much money that they're going to hope that you're not going to care, or at least you're going to kick that idea of career development down the road. And it's good for the first year, maybe it's good for the first couple of years, but after a while, you're going to realize the bargain that you have made here, because you are sabotaging your long-term efforts for the short-term gain. And once you go outside, once it's time for you to leave, you're going to quickly realize that that salary buffer is not going to help you explain why you've essentially been doing the same job for the last 7 or 8 years. Because that just looks like underperformance and it makes you look lousy. So when you go through hard times, and let me give you an example. The first year that I was in business, and by business I mean just me with a Toshiba laptop in a crummy apartment, I think I made like $13,000 for my business. So try to imagine living life on $13,000 and try to think, what keeps you going? Well, what kept me going, what really surprised me, wasn't my own ambitions, but it was the success stories of the people that I was working with. When I would get an email saying, Anish, the resume that you made got me the interview that got me the offer today. Or the interview coaching that you helped me with kept that derailing question that I was worried about, kept it on track, and now we're in the final stage. Every time someone I worked with landed a new role, that made my day. Every time someone said, what you did saved me, it helped me, saved me months and months of time and trial and error in order to get there, that was a win in my cap. When they said that the work that we did helped them get to a place of sunlight out of the darkness faster, that was my mission for me. And that mission, it was always there, but when you don't have things like money and perks and all of those creature comforts to help buffer and support it, you realize whether or not it truly means something to you. And so the big benefit of hard times is if you have a mission, it's going to become crystal clear. And if you don't have a mission and you've been quote unquote faking it, that is also going to show up very, very, very quickly. The major benefit from these types of hard times is, the problems that you feel that you have, the limitations, So many of them get stripped away because you honestly stop caring after a while. I remember a couple of weeks of this, the last couple of weeks, I'm like running from vet appointment to vet appointment. I'm like looking after, my dog I was so close to, seeing her decline. I'm dealing with all this stuff, and when I get back to my office, the things that would normally give me pause, like, oh, I don't really want to send this email. I don't really want to, put this video together, or I don't really need to make this change to my program. I just don't care, I mean, it just reframes everything so quickly. You're just like, what the hell am I worried about? And that's the other thing about hard times is if you're going through a period where money's running out and you need opportunities, right? Or your family's waiting for you to get hired, or you need something, right? You need to make that jump from director level on into the executive suite. It's time. It's time. After a while, you just stop caring. The harder it gets, the less you care about the little things. And the only thing that happens is there's like this clearing out that happens. And the only thing in front of you is the big beast that needs to be slain. And so it's a wonderful wake-up call in terms of reframing all of this stuff, because what happens is the opposite. In a moment of comfort, all of these problems, like level 1 problems, start to compete for attention with level 2, 3, 4, and 5. And before you know it, all you see in front of you are an indistinguishable stream of problems. Well, hard times cuts all of that. And it makes you remember and realize that if I deal with this one problem and I solve one problem, it's going to solve everything else. And so there's clarity there in hard times that really should not be ignored, because it's very, very valuable. And finally, the last great gift I have seen through going through hard times is you realize that the worst case scenario that you had imagined is really not that bad. I remember in the early days, and I guess this kind of goes back to making $13,000 in my first year in business, but I remember my wife and I looking at our bills, and I remember us saying we're headed towards bankruptcy. And it had been a huge fear, and that was my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that I was going to let down my family to such an extent that we would have to go bankrupt, or I wouldn't be able to keep our family together, or we'd be living in the basement of my parents' house, just me, my wife, and our kids, because I couldn't make ends meet. That was my worst case scenario. And the thing that I could not look at head on. And hard times, suffering brought me to a point where just one morning I remember waking up and looking at the calendar and saying, okay, the month's about to tick off, and saying, enough's enough. And I started making appointments with credit counselors, financial planners. I started bringing my wife to those things. Can you imagine dropping your kids off, or at the time, my firstborn was here, Mickey. He was very, very young. So we would drop him with a babysitter, and then we'd go and have these meetings, and they were deeply uncomfortable meetings. If you've ever been in anything similar to that, you know how much of a failure you feel like. You're there and you're looking at, here's all the debt that you have, right? Here's the lack of income that you have. That was awful. Right? It was awful. It was painful. It was humbling. It made me feel like I'd let people down. But you know what? We faced it. We faced it together. And after that point, this burden that I'd been carrying for myself was now one that me and my wife, who's frankly way smarter than I am, we were sharing ourselves. And so that was the great advantage there. And when you go through hard times, you're going to realize that the big demon that you had is just a problem. And the big demon has become magnified in your mind because you can't look at it head on. So if you're dealing with a hard problem, start by looking at it. And I would say continue by bringing your spouse or a loved one into the fight with you. At least to have someone who holds you accountable. But at most, to have someone who can be a partner in this thing together. You are fighting for something big. And improving your life is something that a huge percentage of society does not want you to do. They want you stuck in an office, plugging away, making money so you can fritter it away and go into debt. And because you can be a nice little pockmarked slave in your cubicle. And if you are watching a video like this, you've already woken up, right? You've already started asking yourself the questions. And the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be deluged with some hard times. And my takeaway to this video is be on the lookout for those lessons, because this time, hard times, have value, and they deserve to be looked at from the prism of what can I learn? And if you can go through the hard times with a reinvigorated sense of mission, with a reinvigorated sense of clarity, and a reinvigorated sense of strength, because you have faced the worst case scenario, you've come through on the other side, and now you're looking back and saying, geez, this huge monster that I had, it's kind of a bit of a puppy, no? I mean, it's like this small. I don't know what I was worried about. That's when you know you've come out of it. I hope this has been helpful. I know this is a bit of a straying video from the more practical stuff I usually do, but it's a bit on my mind, and I hope that it has some real value for you. If you've been going through difficult times, shoot me an email, shoot me a message, or leave me a comment. Let me know what you've been dealing with. If you found surprising lessons in hard times, I would really love to hear from you. You guys are why I do what I do, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.